There are 2 seats up here, one over there. And if you have an empty seat by you, will you raise your hand, please? Okay, up high. And for overflow, the TV in the fellowship hall is open.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. This morning I chose as our opening words a litany of restoration written by a Unitarian Universalist minister, Marjorie Bowens Wheatley. If recognizing the interdependence of all life, we strive to build community, the strength we gather will be our salvation. If you are black and I am white, it will not matter. If you are female and I am male, it will not matter. If you are older and I am younger, it will not matter. If you're a progressive and I am a conservative, it will not matter. And if you're straight and I'm gay, it will not matter. If you're a Christian and I am Jewish, it will not matter. If we join spirits as brothers and sisters, the pain of our aloneness will be lessened. And that does matter. In this spirit, we build community and move towards restoration. Hi. Hi.
Ian Lambert, and I am your minister. Now, some of you are visitors, and you're wondering what the heck is going on. Without going into too much detail, like a lot of us, right after Christmas, I came down with that nasty flu that went around, and I don't know who to blame for that, but, you know, we had the Christmas Eve service, which was wonderful, and we had the Christmas Day dinner, the holiday dinner, which was fantastic, but evidently something got passed around. And then, literally, the day that I recovered from the flu, I had a kidney stone attack in the middle of the night. Little tiny 8mm, not sure if it was a boy or a girl. Urologist couldn't tell, so I had a little procedure done about a week ago to blast that into oblivion, and it was a bit more invasive than we anticipated, so still on the recovery mode for that, don't have 100% of my energy back, but my goodness am I glad to be back here. I've missed you so much, and after 3 Sundays or something, I have a lot to say. You know, I spent like 2.5 weeks just sitting around home watching TV, reading and whatever, and I kept making notes. Jeff, see the whiteboard? Yeah. Speaking of which, where'd our decorations go? This looks so plain up here, doesn't it? We're continuing to work on that, the embellishments and decorations and whatever, so please be patient with us. We are not done yet. This is not the permanent state of these walls. So we're continuing to try to improve and make it a really warm, welcoming, wonderful, worshipful space for Sunday mornings and the things we do. I want to thank you for your cards, for your well wishes, emails, texts. Heard from a lot of you, and I really do appreciate that very, very much. It is great to be together, and that we're having trouble finding seats for folks, which also means space out in the parking lot is at a premium. So I know that some of you are parking at the library and walking, some are parking over here in the grass, and so we appreciate that very much. Just please be mindful as you come in to take a seat. If you can move up front so that the latecomers or guests can sit in the back. We hate it when we make first-time guests sit in the front row. It's just super, super awkward. So, as we begin this morning, we light the chalice, which is the symbol of the ritual that unites Unitarian Universalists everywhere. It calls us together here in this space as we gather in sacred community. The flame of the chalice is a symbol of so many of our core values, including truth, knowledge, love, courage, sacrifice, passion, and the light of being together in community. Please join me in reciting the affirmation, which you'll find printed in the order of service as we light the chalice, signifying our sacred gathering this morning. Love is the spirit of fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you so much. I certainly want to say a special welcome to our first-time visitors and maybe some returning snowbirds. I was able to say hi to several first-time visitors today, and it's wonderful to have so many. We'd like to take an opportunity to give you a chance to say hello if you would like to as a visitor, or if you're coming back as a snowbird. This is totally optional. Some people like to say hello and others don't. That's totally fine. But if you don't mind, we'd really love to hear from you. So we invite you, if you're a first-timer or you're back as a snowbird, to stand. We have a microphone that Tom will bring around, and you can tell us your name, where you're from, and why you decided to join us today, if you don't mind. So please, if you don't mind saying hello, please stand, and Tom will come around and bring a microphone. We have a hand over here.
Good morning, I'm Joe Oyer. My wife Patty and I are back after many months, and happy to be here, and happy to listen to you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Y'all after service.
Great to have you back. Others, we have a few over here, a few over there, we got some there, and there. We may be here a while. Awesome.
We've got a couple of Minnesota friends here from our UU church up there called Pilgrim House. And this is Mel and Kathy Anerud.
Well, we're Mel and Kathy Anerud. From Pilgrim House Unitarian Universalists Fellowship in Arden Hills, Minnesota. And that's where Mark had gone for a number of years when he lived in Minnesota.
Welcome.
Here's some.
We're Scotty and Barbara Scott, and we're from Columbia, Maryland. Go to the UU community there.
Welcome. So great to have you. One over here.
Hi, I'm Celia Mendelson with Alan Kostelnik. We live in Little Lake Harbor, New Jersey. We're visiting here for January and February, and we've been to the Bergen County UU Church.
Excellent. Welcome.
So this is Marilyn Tinbrook. She is a house guest for Aubrey and me. She goes to our church in where their home is in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So it's Marilyn Tinbrook.
Hi, Marilyn. Welcome. So nice to have you.
Good morning. Okay, my name's Martha Burgess, and I'm here visiting my dad. Hugh. I know, it's hard to know who he is. My stepmother, Sue Burgess, who's been so wonderful and really a good friend. I don't know, I'm getting to the age where everything makes me cry. I hope it doesn't last. I'm just here visiting for a short visit from Dayton, Ohio. My son said they have ice there, had an ice storm last night, so I'm kind of sorry I'm going home today. But I've been here a few times, and it's nice to come to a place where people are interested in love and acceptance. So,
Thank you so much. Great to have you.
Hello, I'm Elwood, and my wife Aubrey. We're from the First Unitarian Church in Providence, Rhode Island. And we come to Minnesota Key every January and part of February, and we usually try to visit you folks at least one time. So we're glad to be here.
Wonderful. Great.
Hello, I'm Jim Violette. This is my wife, Becky Olson. We're from Cleveland, Ohio. We're involved with the West Shore Universalist Church in the Cleveland area. And we are snowbirds, and so we'll be here for a few months, and we'll be stopping in, I think, from time to time.
Wonderful. Great. Always nice to welcome Buckeyes, OH. Well, thank you so much for being brave enough to say hello. And for those of you who are new, this is your first visit, we have a social hour after our service this morning with some snacks. And we have a cake out there because we have an anniversary. The Martins are, how many anniversary? 31 years. And most of them you celebrated here with us, right? Fantastic. That is so great. So please stay and enjoy the fellowship. We love a chance to get to know you a little bit more and gives you a chance to ask some questions and learn more about us. So please stay, and if you didn't have a chance when you came in, just to sign a little paper so that we know that you're here, and leave an email or phone number if you'd like so that we can contact you. If you're interested in our newsletter, that's a great way to be connected as well. So it's great that we have so many visitors and folks back today. Our first hymn today is number 318, We Would Be One. We invite you to rise in body and or spirit if you'd like to, and sing along with hymn number 318.
Our
In a mood of prayer and meditation, we now read from our Book of Life. Each Sunday before the service begins, you have an opportunity to write joys or sorrows or notes of interest, both large or small, to be read from the Book of Life during the service. The book you'll find on the table just inside the door here by the cart where the hymnals are, and anyone is welcome to write any kind of a note you'd like in the book. In our tradition, we revere the living of our lives as a sacred endeavor, believing that the joys and the sorrows we experience hallow the living of our days. And let's see what we have to read today. Oh, look. Please join us in celebrating our 31st anniversary. There's a cake after the service today, and this is our 20th UUFCC cake. Wow. Well, you need to step that up, obviously. You don't have to limit that to just your anniversary. That's true for all of you. Thank you to everyone that participated in the Peace River Pride celebration yesterday. Your presence at the UU booth and other volunteer functions is greatly appreciated. Thank you also to the many UUs that came just to see and experience the Pride. And that's from John Lee. And I would add a note about the Women's March as well. There were several of us there participating in that, which was fantastic, and a really nice coverage in the sun this morning. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that, please do. It feels so wonderful to know you have been heard. Please remember that when you listen to someone else. And that's from Lindsay Kohlenberg. What a wonderful, terrific reminder. We now give you an opportunity to share silently your joys or concerns, the things that you're excited about or concerned about, things that worry you, things that bring you joy, and to do that with the universe. And in order to give you an opportunity to share that, we have here a table to my right and to your left with some rocks on it. So we're going to have a moment of silence, and after just a moment, we invite you to come up on your own time, take a rock, pause for a moment, and drop it in the bowl that has some water in it. You can do this as a way to relieve stress, to relieve tension from your shoulders, giving it to the universe, to share joys in some way, in honor or in memory of someone or something or some event that matters to you. Doesn't matter why you'd like to come and grab a stone. We just invite you to do so. Let's have a minute of silence for meditation now.
We
Thankful for the breadth of our community, let us endeavor to support one another in all times and in all seasons. May this congregation ever be a harbor for the heart and a sanctuary for the soul. Amen. You have words for offering?
The offering is a sacrament of the Free Church. It is supported by the voluntary generosity of all who join with us. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values. And if you're a first-time guest, please pass the basket without an offering. Your presence is gift enough.
Thank you so much, Jim. It's always interesting because some of us like to do this, and some like to applaud, and some like to cheer, and all of that is okay. We don't really have a rule about how to express your gratitude and appreciation and awe and wonder for the talents that we have here. So you do whatever you want to do, and that's totally good. So today, I think I turned my microphone on. Are we good? All right, thank you, Tom. Today we're going to start a series looking at our 7 principles. Those of you who have been around Unitarian Universalism for a while know that we don't have doctrine, we don't have dogma, we don't have statements of faith to which you have to memorize or adhere or swear a loyalty oath or anything like that. But we do have 7 principles that guide us as a community in our relationship with each other, with the world, with the earth, and with creation around us. And each week in our order of service, you'll find, if you actually read this, that we list the 7 principles as well as our 6 sources. I think we'll probably do the 6 sources later in the spring and summer. But I want to spend some time looking at the 7 principles. And there's a couple reasons I'd like to do that. First of all, I'm still fairly new. This is what, month 4, something like that, of me being your minister. And I think it's good to continue to lay a foundation so that we are all on the same page and understand what we mean by certain terms, and looking at the core of what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist and why that is so important to us. But the second reason I'd like to do that is going to be really super annoying to a lot of you. This is 2020, and it is a major election year. And we have some really important decisions to make come November, and we have a lot of work to do between now and then to not only promote our principles, but to help others understand our principles and why they are so important at the ballot box. The Unitarian Universalist Association, which is headquartered in Boston, last week kicked off a campaign called UU the Vote, which you'll hear a little bit more about through the coming year. But I strongly believe that our principles require us to be politically active. We can do a lot in the community. We can protest, we can march, we can hold signs, we can sign petitions, we can give money, we can go visit the sick, we can help the homeless, we can stand for those who don't have a voice or the marginalized. We can do a lot of that. But we know that there are many, many laws in our country and in our local community that hold people down. Laws that are racist and sexist, that marginalize people, that lift up those who already have privilege, and those laws are in place so that those people who have power, guess what, continue to get to have power. And if you think that anybody who has had power for decades or centuries or millennia is willingly going to give up that power just to share it with marginalized people, that is not how the world works. We have to fight for everything we want to change. And our principles guide us in that. And so over the next year, I'm going to give a lot of sermons that are going to have a political bent. I'm going to share a lot of my own political views and a lot of political inspiration, hopefully, to get you to be more involved. Now, some of you are really, really going to hate that. And I understand that. Some of you come here and you say, this is my sanctuary. I don't want to come to the service on Sunday and hear a political message. I just want spiritually to be uplifted and encouraged. To that I say, I'm really stepping on toes today. I told you, don't give me 3 weeks away again, please. To that I say, that is your privilege talking. That is your privilege talking. Because if you think that there's ever a place where people of color can go where they're not facing discrimination, including their own place of worship on Saturday or Sunday or Friday or whenever that is, if you think they can ever go to a store and not be black, if you think they can ever go to a restaurant and not be Hispanic, if you think they can ever walk down the street and not be Asian and face discrimination and doubts and curiosity and face challenges every day that those of us who are white don't face, then you don't understand what it means to be in the minority and be a person of color. That is privilege. We do not have the right as white people, as fairly wealthy people, as males, as educated people, as people with all types of privilege, to simply stand by and say, you know, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to face it. I'd rather just come and enjoy and sing songs and be happy with my friends. That is privilege, and we have to face it, and this year we're going to face it, and it's going to be uncomfortable. One of the favorite sayings of people who are in ministry, my colleagues, is that often ministry is about comforting the afflicted, but it's also about afflicting the comfortable. Ministry is about comforting the afflicted, but it's also about afflicting the comfortable. I have an obligation. It's in my contract, and it's in my what I signed to be part of the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association. I have an obligation to speak my mind, to say what's on my heart, to share and to challenge us so that we are living out our principles. Not just when it's easy, not just when it's fun, not just when it's nice, not just when it's convenient, but every hour of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year, until that day comes when there is no poor person, when there is no homeless person, when there is no person who doesn't have health care, when there is no person who isn't marginalized and tamped down by the powers that be. Until that day comes, we have work to do. And if you're looking for a sanctuary to come to get away from the politics, to get away from the problems of the world, to get away from anything that is unpleasant that you don't like, this is not going to be that place, not this year, and maybe not ever. And so that is what drives me over the next few weeks, to share our 7 principles, to take a deep dive, to take a look at what they are and what they mean to us. And that's the last time I'm going to apologize for that, and that's not even a really good apology. This weekend is pretty spectacular in our community and around the nation. This is the weekend that we honor the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his work in the civil rights movement. There was a breakfast yesterday. Tomorrow there's a parade. That instead of staying home, if you don't have anything else to do, if you don't have other obligations, please come and join us in the parade. Dennis is going to share a little bit of information later if you don't already know what that is. We have a van, if you can't walk, that you can ride in. The van probably holds 40 or 50 people. Right, Bert? Yeah. We can put you on top. We'll bring tie downs. We'll laugh, whatever it takes. The parade route is only about a mile or so. So if you can walk a mile-ish, please come and do that. If you have one of our purple social justice shirts, we ask you to wear that. If you don't have one of our purple shirts, you have purple. I see lots of beautiful purple out there today. Just wear something that's purpley. And then we have, we're going to have a group to walk so that we can show people that we support the ideals of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the continuing need to fight for civil rights in all corners of our society. Yesterday was also the Peace River Pride Fest, and I know a lot of you were there for that. We have in this community a very large LGBTQ community, and it was so great to see so many of us there supporting that yesterday, encouraging that community. And we are one of the very, very few welcoming congregations in Charlotte County where people who have those marginalized identities, who are questioning or queer in some way, where you can come and feel not just welcomed here, but embraced. Like you are a part of our family because you are a part of our family, because you have inherent worth and dignity given to us by the universe. You are not other, you are us, and you are welcome. And to see so many people there to be a part of that was exciting and fun, and we have some incredible evangelists for Unitarian Universalism. Katie, if you've never seen Katie work a crowd, honestly, she is amazing. And then I mentioned the Women's March yesterday morning. A couple of hundred people or so gathered around down in Lashley Park. We had some speakers. And then we went out and marched a little bit around some of the corners. Crossing the streets down there was crazy, because not only was all that going on, but there's also a big craft fair. So there was like 47 million people in downtown Punta Gorda yesterday. Traffic was an absolute nightmare, more than usual. But we went, and then we walked across the bridge about halfway, and we walked back. And in a community like this, you know, when I was interviewing for the job, and since I've moved here, I've heard over and over again how conservative Charlotte County is. And you can see by the voting record that in the voting booth, that is largely true. But let me tell you, yesterday when we were marching, there were probably 20 times more honks and yells and cheers of support than there were people booing and yelling, "Go Trump," and with their thumbs down. There was very little negativity out there and a whole lot of positivity. And I'm getting to the point where I'm really tired of hearing people make an excuse that Charlotte County is so conservative, that it's not a good place for people with progressive and liberal ideas, because I heard it over and over and over again yesterday, not just from the people who were marching, but from the people who were passing by in their cars, honking and yelling and going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." There's a lot more of us out there than we think. And it's great to be a spiritual home for people who are searching for a progressive and liberal faith of some type to be a part of. There's so much happening in this community. Our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of all people, is what guides us in everything else we do. It's why we participate in these events. It's why we care about people who are in office. It's why we care about the laws and the policies and the issues and the many, many ways that people are continuing to be marginalized in our culture. It's why that matters. Excuse me a moment. I'll be right back. Thank you. This is why I'm going to talk a lot about the 2020 election. And not just the presidential election. Obviously that matters a lot. But our state elections and our local elections. We have a lot of folks in office who don't agree with our values. That's the nice way to put it. We have a lot of folks in office who need to be voted out. In our cities, in our county, in our sheriff's office, in our state representatives, and our state senators, not just in Washington. Because while Washington can do their own thing, Tallahassee does its own thing, the courthouses and the city halls in the county do their own thing, and all of that matters. We can't just concentrate on one election and not focus on all of them. We have issues that we have to think about when it comes to health care. I realized that when I was dealing with the flu, when I was dealing with kidney stones, that I have very good health care coverage. I was able to get to the ER to see the doctor that I needed to see in order to get treatment. And at the very same time, I read in the paper and I hear on the news story after story after story about people who don't have health care coverage or don't have very good health care coverage, who go to an ER and wait 2 and 3 hours and they never see a doctor and they leave in frustration and they're dead 2 hours later. That is not okay in a modern society that says that we value people. All the other developed nations in the world have universal health care of some type. People who need help can get help everywhere in the world except for the United States of America, and that is a travesty that has to be fixed in some way by people a lot smarter than I am who know how to get those things done. Our environment, we know, has problems. We have global warming, we have environmental problems, we have weather issues, we have floods, we have storms, we have hurricanes, we have burning in Australia where we see billions of animals being killed. Recycling, plastics, issue after issue after issue that we need to address. Women's rights. 100 years ago, women got the right to vote. And we're finally seeing that matter. In the 2018 election, more women were elected to public office than ever before in local, state, and national offices. And that is absolutely something to celebrate. We know, because of the way women run committees and organizations and congregations and families, that the world would be so much better off with more women in church. those who are poor and are homeless, people who are immigrants who want to come to America to escape violence, to escape bloodshed, to escape persecution, minorities of all types. I already mentioned the LGBTQ community, people that are undereducated, people who are underemployed. We must stand in the gap for all of them because we have privilege. So the reason I have the whiteboard up here, let's see if I can do this without hurting myself. So I want to talk about privilege for a few moments. I mentioned a couple of ways already that we have privilege, that I have privilege. I'm white. I'm male. I have a good education. I'm able-bodied. I'm relatively wealthy compared to the rest of the world and the rest of the people in the United States, certainly. So I have a degree of wealth. I can afford to go out to eat after the service today and not really think about it. That is privilege. What are other ways that you or I or other people experience privilege in America? Healthcare. Yep, certainly healthcare.
Coming from a loving family.
Excellent. Experience loving family.
Relative safety.
Yeah, housing safety, daily safety. Housing.
Connections.
What do you mean by that?
I guess when you're privileged, you're connected to other privileged people, so that you have.
Perfect. Yep. That's excellent. Religious freedom, absolutely. And we know that in our culture, if you are Christian or identify as Christian, you have a lot of privilege that other marginalized religions don't. How many people in America who are white Christians are accused of being terrorists just because of their faith? How many of us in our culture who are white Christians get persecuted simply because we are Jewish? What? You know what I meant. I thought that was a request. What else you got?
Food security.
Food security. I heard a couple other voices.
Voting.
Mental health. Clean water. All right, clearly we could go on and fill a whole bunch of boards, and I know that this is just my handwriting, so I apologize about that. That's as good as it gets. We could go on and on and on, talking about the ways in which we experience privilege. I have privilege in almost all of those ways. We forgot sexuality and gender identity. On and on and on and on we could go. This is what we mean when we say that we value the inherent worth and dignity of all people. And if we honestly mean what we say, that we value the inherent worth and dignity of all people, it is incumbent on those of us who have privilege after 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 privilege to stand in the gap and fight and be the voice and the allies of those who do not have that privilege until the day comes when they have that privilege and are not held down by their identity, by their education, by their gender, by anything on this list, as long as we can make it. We have work to do. again, it's not just at the national level. One of the reasons that I know some of you are uncomfortable with me getting political or us getting political as a congregation is that you've been taught through the years that churches, that places of worship cannot be political. And that's simply not true. Where that comes from is from a bill that became part of the IRS law in the 1950s known as the Johnson Amendment. It was proposed and passed by then Senator Lyndon Baines Johnson, basically to say if you are a not-for-profit, you should not be having a political voice in telling people how to vote. And at the time, people were like, that absolutely makes sense. So that law has been on the IRS books for 65-ish years, and the punishment for political activity or endorsing political candidates from the pulpit, in my particular case, or say our board decided to take a vote and endorse a party or a candidate, the punishment for that is that you lose your 501(c) tax exempt status. 65 years, no congregation of any type has ever lost their tax exempt status for that. No congregation, no other organization has ever been prosecuted for violating the Johnson Amendment. Not one ever. And every time an election comes around, you see the news, you see candidate after candidate after candidate march in and out of the pulpits, especially of conservative churches all over the nation. They don't give a damn. And to hopefully put your mind at a little bit more of ease, one of the very first things that Donald Trump did when he became president was to sign an executive order telling the IRS to stand down from enforcing that law. So there is a valid executive order in place telling the IRS to ignore the Johnson Amendment. And that will be true as long as he is president. That's why we don't have to worry about our own political engagement. Now, I'm not going to endorse any candidates from the pulpit. I'm not going to say go vote for this person or for that person. And if you're a good you would ignore me anyway. But I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to make it very clear where I stand on the policies, on political issues, and maybe even on the parties and some of the candidates. We may invite some candidates to come here just to share a little bit about the core of their faith and why they do what they do. Not to give a political stump. That's not the purpose. We're not going to have any rallies here. And I know some of you, I see buttons and hats and things that you wear for one candidate or anti another candidate. Clearly, you get to do that if you want to. I would ask us to be cautious, however. Because again, if we believe in the breadth of the first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of all people, you know who that includes? You know what I'm going to say. Somebody who might walk in our door that wears a Trump 2020 hat. This is a real challenge for us. And not just for this congregation, but for UUs and liberal progressive thinkers all over this nation. And it's personally difficult for me. And I'm not going to tell you that I have this figured out because I don't. It is dividing my family, and I hate it. My mom is a Trump supporter. My dad is a Trump supporter. My sister is a Trump supporter. I don't know how to talk to them about these issues, about privilege, about the inherent worth and dignity of all people. I don't know how to talk to them about hardly anything political in nature without causing a family fight and a rift and a division. Anybody else relate to that? That's just about everybody in case you're counting. If we had made a motion and had a vote, it would have passed. If we believe, though, in the first principle, if it's really valuable to you, the inherent worth and dignity of all people, that's not the inherent worth and dignity of all people except Republicans. It's not the inherent worth and dignity of all people except Trump supporters. It's not the inherent worth and dignity of fill in whatever blank gets under your skin. We have to learn to value people, even when they disagree with us. However, better take another drink. This is really, it's just water, honestly. However, one of the key words in this principle that a lot of other UUs and a lot of my colleagues hang on to is the word inherent. It means that we are born with worth and dignity. That on a basic playing level, we are all equal. But what does that mean when you adopt policies and ideas and attitudes that actively fight against that first principle? If you believe that some people are meant to be poor, that is not just a difference of opinion. If you believe that people need to earn enough money to get decent health care, that is not just a difference of opinion. If you believe that people of a certain skin tone are better than people with darker skin, that is not just a difference of opinion. If you believe that men are naturally superior to women, that is not just a difference of opinion. If you believe that old white men should pass laws limiting decisions that women can make about their own bodies and their own lives, that is not just a difference of opinion. If you believe that people who are gay or transgendered or queer need to be fixed, that is not just a difference of opinion. And if you believe that your religion is the only acceptable religion and that any other religion is filled with terrorists plotting to kill you and take over the world, that is not just a difference of opinion. Unitarian Universalism and the 7 principles that we identify as our core guiding ideas teach us that every single person is valuable and we live in a complex and delicate interconnected web. Over the next several weeks, we'll look at these principles more deeply and consider how they can guide our life, our decisions, our activism, and our relationships in this vital election year. I want to close with a few words that come from Senator and recently former presidential candidate Cory Booker. Before you speak to me about your religion, first show me how you are treating other people. Before you tell me how much you love your God, show me in how much you love all God's children. Before you preach to me of your passion for your faith, teach me about it through your compassion for your neighbors. In the end, I'm not interested in what you have to tell or what you have to sell, as I am in how you choose to live and to give. Amen. Our closing hymn this morning is number 131, Love Will Guide Us. 131, Love Will Guide Us. We invite you to rise in body and or spirit as we sing together 131.
Thank you.
Mike is, am I on now? Yeah. Okay. Now it's time to look at the life of our community. There's quite a pile here. A lot of life in this. Yeah. Wednesday at 4:30, you could be dancing. You could be dancing with me and her and about 12 other folks. So come Wednesday, 4:30. This week is the throat chakra. And if you want to have more details, talk to Samara. Right here. This is really, I go, it's fun. Let's see, for tickets for our jazz fundraiser are again available in the social hall after the service. Tickets are only $15 and each and a portion goes to the fellowship. More information is available in the social hall or see George Clattenburg. George, where are you? Way back. On Saturday, February 15th, from 2 to 4, Jerry Searle will be presenting Journey to Sustainable Living, and Dr. Alan Searle will be presenting Climate Change Managing Health Impacts. The presentation will be here in the sanctuary, and environmentally friendly snacks will be served afterwards. I went to the first presentation of this series yesterday, and I can't begin to tell you how much I learned. Please try to get to this. Meatless meals. Join us for great fun, scrumptious food, and stimulating fellowship on Saturday, January 25th at 5:30. The movie will be Decoding the Weather Machine. It was released in 2018, and the meal will be environmentally friendly and cruelty-free. All are welcome. This is from Jackie and Laurie. I will be hosting a visitor from Nicaragua for about a month starting this Thursday. If anyone would be interested in hosting or being a tour guide, or be included in activities, Rosa is delightful. She speaks very little English, however. So if you would like to help this lady and connect with her, there's Laurie right there. Talk to her. Speaking of Laurie, at last week's board meeting, we unanimously voted to fill the vacancy on the board, which was created by Marion Mena's resignation. We're really grateful to Laurie for accepting this position, and also very grateful to Marion for her service. All members and friends and their families are invited to march with this fellowship tomorrow in the MLK parade. Now, this is what Reverend Dan was referring to earlier. Here are the details. We'll assemble at 10:30 on Taylor Street by the Event Center parking lot. It'll be a 1-mile march. It starts at 11. We're going to get together at 10:30. A van will follow the group for those who are tired or need a pop, or need something back to the starting point. Come follow our banner. If you have a purple tee, wear it tomorrow. And if you have questions, see her. Again, the meatless meal, please sign up for it. It's next Saturday at 5:30, and you bring your own table service. The Black History Film Series begins February 3rd, and then each Monday thereafter during the month of February. And I will put this on the back on the bulletin board that will give you the titles of each film and any other details. And finally, I'm in the process of trying to get a program council started. And there's very important reasons why we need to do this. I'm not going to go into all those details, but read the letter I put in, that I'm going to have published in the newsletter that will explain all the intricacies and possibilities that could come out of the program council. So what I'm asking is, if you are a chair of a committee, then on January 26th, following the service, meet with me right here and bring your calendars, because we need to set a date when everybody can get together. If you're unable to attend on the 26th after the service, please send a representative from your committee. I'd like to get this going before I leave office at the end of March. One of the reasons why it's so important that we work on this is that this is the group that will take our mission statement and then develop the visions of where we're going, and then the committees will eventually come up with the goals. So it's real important we do this, the 26th after the service. And that's all I have. The closing words are attributed to St. Francis of Assisi. Where hate rules, let us bring love. Where sorrow, joy. Let us strive more to comfort others than to be comforted, to understand others than to be understood, to love others more than to be loved. For it is in giving that we receive, and in pardoning that we are pardoned. Blessed be. Now we'll extinguish the chalice, but not the light of hope, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. May those ideals shine in our lives and warm our hearts until we meet again.
And as we depart this space this morning, I just want to share one other issue for the life of the community. There's a lot of email hacking going on, and Kay Azar, I know, had an issue this morning. A lot of you ministers are getting a fake email sent on their behalf asking for gift cards. In fact, Rev Amy had that happen just this past week at her new congregation. So if you ever receive an email that claims to be from our congregation or from me, ignore it. It's fake. I would never ever do that. I would never ask for money or gift cards or anything in email like that. If you get it though, report it to us so that we can report it to the proper authorities. So as we depart from this sacred space, please remember in all that you do to be a blessing to everyone you meet. As we share our community benediction, which you'll find the lyrics for in your order of service, it's 4:13, go now in peace.
Yeah.